Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you here on this Wednesday, December 7th. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with me as always, keeping things balanced. John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines. Appreciate everybody joining us. Hope you guys have had a good start to your week. We're at the midway point. It's all downhill from here, baby.
That's right.
All downhill from here. So that makes it easy. Lots of college basketball scores to get to. Indiana plays Nebraska tonight. The bowl lineups, we haven't talked about that yet. We got plenty of stuff to get to. Mike Woodson. We'll hear from Mike from Woody from yesterday. Couple of several interesting clips, as a matter of fact, that we can hear from him, and I'm looking forward to. The funniest clip can't play because I don't feel like putting John through all that work of having to edit out the.
If you give me some ample time, I can figure out a way to.
Oh yeah, well, for this broadcast, it's great. Just
for the radio broadcast. No, I can. What I'm saying is, I can even bleep it out over the YouTube broadcast if I need.
That doesn't. That's not necessary. That's the great thing about being on.
Well, then we can't air it because I don't have the time after the show to edit it. So, problem solved.
Yeah, problem not solved. Problem not solved. That's one of my favorites from Wedding Crashers. Problem solved.
Problem not solved.
Problem not solved. Problem not solved.
That's a great movie.
Oh my God, Vince Vaughn is so freaking hilarious. Kidding me? Yeah, it's one of my favorites. How's everybody doing? Forrest jumping on early. Dave G. Appreciate you. He says he hopes his beloved Hoosiers bring them a game to Nebraska tonight. Indiana is 13-point favorites. Huh. That's a lot for a team that just beat Creighton over a team that just lost to a team that just lost to Rutgers.
Yeah.
But that's kind of I don't want to say losing to Rutgers was an anomaly. It wasn't. It's one of those deals where somebody wanted it a little bit more. It was at home. It's early. I don't think these guys were ready to get punched in the face yet because they had they was a little swelled up in the chest from going 7-0, knocking off North Carolina, and so they just kind of got knocked back a little bit.
I'll steal a word that our friend Jeffrey the Greek uses, puffy chesty. They got a little puffy chesty after they beat North Carolina and walked into it. And then, again, not having Jalen Hood-Schifino, big difference. So we'll see tonight. This is what we've talked about these last couple of days. How do they respond after getting hit in the face, knocked down to the canvas? Can they respond? Whether they have Hood-Schifino or whether he's limited or whether he's out. Yeah. How are they going to respond tonight? Because Nebraska's going to come in here confident, and they're going to probably have the exact same game plan that they did against Creighton. Take away the interior, make them shoot threes, and if they beat you, if Indiana can knock down some outside shots, I really like their chances to win this going away. But if they struggle from three like they did over the weekend against Rutgers, they're going to have a ball game in Assembly Hall.
Absolutely. Michael on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. Doug, Philip. Yep, we'll talk about that one. Ryan. Oh, I missed it. It moved on me. Ryan. 5 lefts on already as well, Mike. Yeah, Wisconsin beat Nebraska. No, Wisconsin beat someone else last night. No.
Wisconsin beat Maryland.
Yeah, Wisconsin beat Maryland last night. But had Wisconsin already – no. Well, they could have. No. Did they already play a game?
Did Wisconsin already play a game in the Big Ten?
Yeah. Was that their second game already? Which is possible?
No, I believe it's their first because they played their rivalry against Marquette over the weekend.
Okay. Just curious. Larry on as well. Doug says his sister, Karen, IU grad, watching her first game from heaven today. So we're thinking of you and your sister, Doug, and thoughts to Karen. K-Bro on as well. Yes, sir. I guess it's going to – well, fired up's not quite the right word. It's going to be – it's kind of – because it's kind of the start of a bunch of traveling in a short period of time. I'm not complaining, but I was just thinking about this yesterday, K-Bro and Dylan. I'm going to have to leave before the game is over. No, I don't. Never mind. I now see I'm confused again. I got unconfused. There's so much going on. I got to thinking that originally I was scheduled to fly out tonight.
Right.
And I was able to get my flight changed because I would have had to have left with like, I don't know, 10 minutes to go in the game and headed to the airport. And then I finally realized that I'm just crazy, as I already knew. And hey, the game's tonight. You fly tomorrow. I'll get your flight changed. So there's that. So now I'm back off the crazy train.
Beautiful. We like to see you back on Earth.
But I'm fired up, K-Bro. I am. Yeah, that would be cool. Stay out there and hang for Vegas Bowl. Oh yeah, but yeah, what is that, like 6 weeks away, Kevin?
Kevin's gonna pay for your hotel stay.
And first of all, Kevin was never available at this time. It was hard for him to December 17th. Oh man, didn't miss it by much, did we? But K-Bro, I'm going to be in Lawrence, Kansas on December 17th for Indiana and Kansas. That's what I was getting ready to talk about traveling. We bust out to Las Vegas, and then you come back, and then you turn around and you go to Lawrence, Kansas for that, and then more traveling after that throughout the month of December. But again, not complaining. Well, K-Bro, why don't you just come out early, and you could have done both. You could have done the double. Rock Choke Jayhawk. There you go. Look at that. Ooh, Rock Choke Jayhawk. How many people are going to be stealing that? I'm not saying you came up with that. If you did, you need to throw a claimer out on there, K-Bro. But and for those of you listening on radio, Kevin Brockway, one of our great friends and former co-hosts, is down in covering the Gators now in Florida, but is hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline with some comments. The Rock Choke Jayhawk. I've never heard of that. I've never heard. So I'm sure you picked that up from somewhere, but if you didn't and that's yours, you might want to throw a claimer on there, K-Bro.
Make a
because
t-shirt.
I promise you, and I love our fans, but every time, like after we do a post-game show and like there's something I'll say, like the next day or even during the show, I'll see people commenting with that, throwing that out there. Like I know I just said that. But it's just funny. But here's the one thing. Do not ever do. I love every listener, all of our listeners. But do you know the one thing? There's nothing that pisses me off more. And it's not just our listeners. I have friends that'll do this. I had one do it not too long ago. And I wanted to respond the same way I always do. I'll get a message in some form. It's always either a text or a message or something like that. Hey, what time's the game tomorrow night? What time is the IU game tomorrow night? What time's the IU game tonight?
Yeah.
You would think that That happens a lot more than you can imagine. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? You obviously have service and connection to the internet. GTS, baby. GTS. It would have taken you the same amount of time to do that and get your answer actually faster than you took to reach out to me to do that, because that would have been the same. Now you want me to go either just know it or go look it up. I generally don't know the times of games until I'm not paying attention to that until
the day of.
Yeah, there's just way too much going on. I have no idea, man. No idea what channel it's on, all that crap. I don't have time for that. But
the only time that really happened to me, it did happen, but it
happens all the time to me.
Maybe because you cover us, or because we cover a specific team, primarily with Indiana. When I was covering the Big Ten, I would get that question, but only when the Big Ten was using the the 6-day allotment so people thought I had some sort of inside knowledge as to when the kickoffs might be. I had no idea. It was announced when the networks would announce it.
Kenneth, you ain't lying. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yes.
Nothing we didn't already know, but a wilder ride. I'm telling, as much as, and not that they're still not, but look, like a team like Maryland, the dark horse, a solid dark horse, a legitimate dark horse, but they go down already. They lose. Did they lose on the road? I hope, at least.
Did Maryland lose on the road? They
lost at home. Wisconsin wins at home. Yes. Wisconsin
won at home. Yes. Yeah.
Tight game though. 64-59. So
that's what Wisconsin does. Okay, keep it low scoring. And then
Maryland is 1-1 in the Big Ten now. So
everybody, all but one team in the Big Ten has at least one loss.
Well, that's Wisconsin, I guess.
Nope.
Wisconsin's 1-0.
Well, I mean, overall their record. Purdue's the only team that does not have a loss at all this season.
I got you. Overall. My bad. And see, there you go. Let's start adding these teams. All right, Purdue, Indiana, Illinois, Maryland. Anybody else? Michigan State. Michigan State.
I'd throw Wisconsin in there.
I'm talking about competing for the title.
You don't think, man? Wisconsin's going to be up there. They're going to be up there.
No.
What do you want to bet they finish in the top 4? They're going to find a way, and it's going to aggravate the living hell out of me.
I will
because
take
they
that
always
bet.
do it.
I will take that bet.
Okay, what do you want to bet? Because I think they're not a good offensive team, but somehow Greg Gard always has them in the top 4, and it's going to aggravate me because they set basketball back about 40 years.
We'll bet
but
coffee.
They're going to find a way.
We'll bet coffee.
All right, we'll bet coffee.
Matter of fact, I'm having a blend of the Outsider coffee this morning with what I had left. Some good like French vanilla blend of something.
Oh, nice. I
Kroger.
Like it.
The Outsider coffee, straight up good coffee smell, man. I was like, oh, it smells good.
Yes.
But I poured it in there and got to blend going. So, but it looks like it's time to take our first break. But we've got lots to get to today, lots of college basketball to talk about. The bowl lineups we haven't got to. Indiana taking on Nebraska tonight. We'll preview that. Rick Bozich, the Hall of Famer's on with us today. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star as well. We're going to hear from Mike Woodson, and who knows what else we may pop in on you. Let's see. It's Kenneth says that Purdue, if they win at Nebraska, is the only team that seems like they could be 2-0 after 2 games. We'll talk more about all that good stuff as well. Hey, don't forget, we're brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda, the #1 Honda dealer around, and Endeavor. Wow. Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club a proud sponsor of IU Athletics and many, many locations in and around the Bloomington area when you're up for a game. Places like BB's Market, who's your local caterer, meat, butcher, baker, whatever you need, full service and completely from scratch, new. It's incredible stuff. Plus, you can also get great breakfast, brunches, lunches, some dinner there as well. Make sure you stop in or just visit bbs.com. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's at
Thanks, JTP, for the commercials.
Sorry I didn't have them done sooner. Whenever I actually sat down and started putting things together, I was like, this is going to take me a lot longer than I thought. But they are done now.
Trust me. That's why people are like, I mean, nobody knows, but like there are so many days, and like yesterday was one where I finished recording the show and I don't get up from this seat for like 8 hours. I mean,
if I wasn't at iHeart, this wouldn't be a big deal. But it's the fact that I'm doing that on top of my other stuff.
No, I get it. There's just a lot to do. But yesterday was one of those days. I look up finally, and it's like it was, I don't know, 6 hours after the show. And I'm like, gee whiz.
What time is your flight tomorrow? By the way, are you doing the show tomorrow?
Night.
Okay, so you are doing the show tomorrow. Are you doing it Friday, or have you not decided?
Oh, I'm doing it Friday. I arrive in Vegas, our time, 2 a.m.
Is that Mountain Time or Pacific Time?
Pacific time. Said our time, 2 a.m.
Yeah,
okay. So
it's Pacific either way. My point is, the show is about 3.5 hours after I land. So I won't be going to sleep. I'll just go to. But I'm just telling you that, so know that you may have to.
Just make sure your phone is on.
Yeah, I hopefully can get some sleep on the plane.
I got you. I got you covered on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes to worst, we'll take care of the show on.
Oh, I know, but I want to do it. I want to do it, especially because. And I'm going to give a shout out today to Dean Garrett. And is that at New York or MGM? Man. But Dino got me an extra room for I'm flying out a night early. So, and then Dean Garrett is supposed to do the post-game show on Saturday with Todd from the arena.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
And
30 seconds.
Special treat. Don't want to possibility.
Don't spoil.
Yeah,
it's not.
I like this.
We'll keep it at that.
The Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Oh, welcome back. Before I forget, this is also December 7th. You do the math, but Pearl Harbor happened in 1941. So there's that. That's 59 plus 22. Can you do the math real quick?
81 years ago.
80. There you go. Boy, you're quick. 81. So no one. There's a possibility that there's still some survivors that they would have had to been like 18, maybe.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't work out either. They'd be over 100. So, right?
No, if they were 18, they'd be 99.
If they were 18 when it happened 81 years ago,
Yeah.
they'd be 99. Yeah, so there's a possibility there's still one or two around. But just thinking of all the servicemen that every day, we appreciate you each and every day. And again, shout out to Doug. Sorry that his lost his sister a couple weeks ago. We appreciate him. Their funeral services today down in Bedford. He says they're having an IU dress code. Well, that is certainly something. And wish you guys a speedy recovery to the soul. Let's see. Mike says, yep, a day that will live in infamy. That is true. That is true. There's been some days on the IU basketball court that you could throw that label to. Mark says in the Chicago Sun-Times yesterday, he had an article of a survivor of Pearl Harbor, actually from the Arizona. He's 102. There you go.
Wow. How about that?
There you go. So can you imagine?
Was 21.
Being so there's probably a handful, and when I say handful, I mean literally count on your hands. And can you imagine being like one of the last 10 survivors of that thing?
I can't.
Because think about memories that you have that you remember pretty well from, your childhood, or even being 18, 19, 20.
Right.
Imagine that memory being at frickin' Pearl Harbor getting bombed.
Right. Well, it would be very similar to, people who survived 9/11 in New York City. I can't imagine that sort of trauma and that sort of experience to go through. It's just, it's insane to think about. It's something I can't even really wrap my head around.
Oh, Sam says StubHub has tickets as low as $5 in the upper deck tonight. $54 for courtside. Damn. Hell, I'd almost buy that for myself sometimes.
I was going to say that's a pretty good deal.
You know what? If Sam, whenever you see those from now on those court sides, if you ever see a pair, grab them and we'll do a giveaway. As a matter of fact.
Oh, okay.
Sam, we should do a giveaway for the dental practice. What do you think about that? $100, huh? Come on.
I need to go down and see Sam and Claremont when I get back down to Florida.
Well, you know what? You should meet me in late January for the Montverde Academy Invitational Tournament that takes place just outside of Orlando.
Yes, I will. I will do that because I'm not far from Orlando. Well, 2 hours. About 2 hours.
But yeah, I thought you meant like 20 minutes, man.
No. Well, but I can get to where I can get to Orlando. Trust me on that.
No kidding. Did you think I thought it was landlocked or something?
There's a lot of Capro will back me up. There's a lot of water in Florida. You got to drive around a lot of lakes.
I understand that. There's something called the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean surrounding it.
Also true.
And as well as Okeechobee and
Lake
Okeechobee.
Butler.
That's a big old lake, but it's not big in comparison to the Great Lakes. No. So it's like a dot compared to those, which is crazy. Pete's brother met a World War II vet at Chattanooga Airport not long ago. Talked with him for 5 minutes or so, of course. Thanked him for his service. He was 98.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool. That's pretty cool. Sam is saving hospitality suite passes for me and Dustin at the mate compliments of Claremont Lakes Dental Care. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, I didn't know they had a suite down there. I missed that one last time. But last time I was down there, Sam was a great host. Hey, man. Absolutely. Try to, Howie. If we can give away some courtside seats, can you imagine getting to give away courtside seats to someone who has never been to a game?
Yes, that's what we've got to do. I love giving tickets to people who have never been to games. Love
even
it.
If they've been to a game, if it's only been like one or two, if you haven't had good seats, let me tell you, you don't even have to be in the balcony. If you are, I'm going to go with row 40 and above in the main level. There's a line of demarcation, and I think that's because partly the balcony hangs over the main area down to a certain, like the top 25% or something. I think any of those rows are not good because the sound goes up underneath the balcony, bounces off and whatnot. But so that's my opinion.
I've already got an idea for us, Jim. I believe December 23rd. I used to live in Kennesaw. I follow the Kennesaw State basketball team. Indiana hosts Kennesaw State. If there are some reasonable courtside seats, if you buy one, I'll buy one, and we can give them away.
Where? When? What? Say it again.
Indiana hosts Kennesaw State. I used to live in Kennesaw. I follow the basketball team. If there's some decent prices for the courtside seats, you buy one, I'll buy one. We'll give them away. That gives us enough time to get the word out and check on prices.
Or better yet, we find a sponsor.
That'll work too.
That we'll give a shout out to for just giving the tickets away. But I won't. Just an FYI, that's a game. Kennesaw State, and what day is that on? Is that the 20th?
I think it's the 23rd. I'm going off the top of my head right now. I think it's just a few days before Christmas.
There are two games that I will be out of town for. I mean, I'll still be involved with the post-game show on those, but they are both home games, and I will not be in town because I fly from Kansas to Florida, and it's during that period that those two games are going to take place. So I'm not going to be here for that game, but I don't care. Martin has never been to an IU game. Martin, where do you live? Just out of curiosity. There's a lot of people, 23rd. There's a lot of people that have never been to an IU game. It's kind of amazing. It's amazing to me. You know what? We haven't talked about the football portal yet. We'll get to that as well. 700 players entered on day one, according to Tim. Michelle sat in row 4 behind the basket for the North Carolina game. Felt like she played after the game was over.
That's awesome.
Totally different experience to sit close. Trust me. As a reporter, it's a different story.
Major difference.
I'm like, sometimes I get to sit like down courtside to cover games. And if it's a bigger game and the big wigs like our buddy Bob Kravitz or Rick Bozich, when they cover the games, they get priority, and knuckleheads like me get kind of booted a little bit up to the corner level, which is still great, which is still fine. But there is a gigantic difference because when I'm sitting there, I'm right behind both benches. I can actually hear the coaches.
Yep.
You can hear things that you just cannot hear there. And that's the difference. That is a gigantic difference for us covering it. So as a fan, oh, hell yes, there's a difference. It's a different ball game, folks. When you can actually feel and hear the picks, the sets, the screens, the ball going through the net. Yeah, it's a big difference. So I would love to do that. It'd be fun.
Yeah, one of the things I'll say too is there's some benefits about when your team sucks. And so when the Pacers were really bad, I would get 5-6 rows up for like $12 to $15 on the secondary market. So I would go and let me tell you, people who say that they don't believe defense exists in the NBA, or sometimes they don't look like they're trying hard, when you sit that close, completely different experience. So if you ever get that chance.
How can all right, Sam said there's a pair of courtside tickets that started at $144 each for Kennesaw State, but didn't he just say that there's some for tonight for $54?
Yes. Sometimes they
This is a Big Ten game against a team that just beat Creighton.
Here's what happens. A lot of times when the closer that you get to the game, the prices start dropping because then they're just trying to give them away. They're trying to get rid of them. So by the time if you wait a little bit, sometimes those prices will come down significantly. So since the 23rd is still 16 days away, they're probably still hanging on and hoping.
Yeah. Yes, Jennifer, it is, but I don't think they're giving away courtside seats. Now, Pete, it's been 35 years since you've been to Assembly Hall.
Wow.
Are you serious? That's your own damn fault for living up at the North Pole.
No sympathy from Jim, Pete.
Nope. He's been up there making toys for little girls and boys for the last 20
we got
years.
a rhyme. Look at that rhyme.
I'm not sure what Kenneth means by hit the half court shot. Is there a prize for that? I missed that. Not sure what he's talking about there, but looking forward to Saturday. Don't forget post-game show tonight. Todd Leary. You know what? I don't know who his special guest is yet. Hopefully we'll find that out later on. But see, on Saturday, hoping to do an extra special after the game with Todd Leary. I think Dean Garrett should be hopefully courtside, and maybe one other really special guest. I'm trying to get Pat Knight to be there as well, since he lives in Las Vegas. Chatted with him on the I started to say on the Twitter, but that wasn't quite true. It was just texting. But we've got to take a break. We got lots more coming up. John, the producer, when does Kyle up next, or we got another segment?
We have one more before Kyle.
Cool. Indiana Sports Beat Radio brought to you by our good friends from Go Teen, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Go Teen, for always on the go, whether it's you, your kids, or the team. It's hard to find fresh, tasty food that's convenient to eat on the fly. Go Teen was created for go-getters like you, full of fresh, healthy ingredients, and each recipe contains high-quality protein powder. And guess what? They come in multiple flavors, taste great. High-achieving people like you need a great-tasting source of energy to conquer the day. Just go to goteenbites.com, GOTEIN, bites.com, or pick them up at BB's Market. They're a proud partner of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Network, and they are freaking good. I'm telling you, I've had them. They got a whole ton of different flavors. We're back with more Indiana Sports Speed Radio high atop the 18th fairway from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal. Golfers. Man, I try to get to the comments as much as I can. There was one from the post-game show the other day. This dude wrote this much. Do you know how much it takes to write that much in the comments?
Yes, I do.
And the one thing he wanted to compliment me about was not talking over Todd in the last post game, but then at the end, I think he was chastising me for talking over Todd in the post game. But then there was something else. There was just all kinds of stuff that. So
there was somebody complaining about the your not really feuding, but your opponents. I don't even want to call them opponents. What do we call them? Competitors.
I know who he's talking about, and I think
I don't know what you mean by that.
People were talking about why you should get along with your competitors.
Well, those are.
What? What do you? I missed that.
I know what he's talking about.
Okay.
No,
I know what you're talking about, John.
Do you want me to be explicit about what I'm saying then?
No, you're going to get Jim all fired up. You're just.
Okay.
By the way, Tebow, I look gray because of the lighting here. And also, I'm in Indiana.
Are you still in Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
What is he saying?
He said that really pisses me off.
What, the fact that you're in Indiana?
I said I'd come down for the Nebraska game, but he told me he was leaving.
Oh, you're stopping in Berea on the way back, right? You're not coming near my way again.
Correct. Well, I think I'm going to stop also at Buffalo Trace in Frankfurt on the way to Berea.
Okay, so you won't be going down 65 through Louisville again.
I don't know. It had me going to Louisville and then
Just going
through. Heading east.
Probably going on 64.
We've got all this time to stop at all these places. Visit all these people.
Now listen, hold on. No, I'm putting the blame on you for this one because I said I'll come down for the Nebraska game, and you said, "Well, I'm flying out that day," so that put the kibosh on that.
No, that's not till tonight.
Well, now I have to work till 6. I could have taken a day off because I have some vacation, but nope.
You can still come down here and work.
I can't. I have to work until 6.
15 seconds. Here we go.
AA on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday. We made it halfway. December 7th. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with me as always. Jim Coyle here as well. John, the producer, keeping us between the white lines. Dustin's traveling. Doesn't come to Bloomington. We're brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Dustin won't, but you should.
Here we
go. Let's see.
Oh, boy.
Tebow says, it looks like I have a tan compared to you, and you're in the Florida sun. You look so gray.
I'm very pale.
It's because you have a light behind you.
I know. Yep.
How's everybody doing? We've reached the halfway point tonight. Indiana takes on Nebraska, a game that Indiana should be, let's be honest, they should be pissed off in. They should be mad at themselves. Not so much that they lost, but they should be mad at themselves for that always. But for how they played, they just got out. You heard, we'll hear from Mike Woodson later. Yeah, I wish we could hear from the one. That's the one that really says it. But John, I may give you a shot at that later on.
If I'm feeling risque, maybe we'll play the explicit version over YouTube.
That would be so exciting.
We are a family show, though, right? Actually,
let's hear. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was going to go into the clip. So what are we going to?
We don't have it ready. I just said we'll play it later.
I don't mean that clip. I mean the other clips I sent to you.
No, they're all being worked on right now. They'll be ready for when Dustin's gone.
Oh, so none of them are ready. Which, let's see. Indiana taking on Fred Hoiberg's Nebraska Cornhuskers tonight in a game. Indiana is what did I say, 12.5-point favorite or 14?
13, I think 13 and a half.
Exactly the right around the differential that Creighton was over Nebraska?
Here's the interesting thing. I don't know how much of a beat Indiana's going to have on Nebraska in terms of like a scouting report, because as we talked with Steve Merrick yesterday, they just got Derek Walton back, and he's a key piece for them. And while I don't know how much they know what he's going to do with them on the floor, but like we said, it's going to be interesting to see what they try to do to stop Trace Jackson Davis. The ball rotation is going to have to be good. They need to try to get inside. They need to open up, stretch the floor, just hit a couple of shots, whether that's inside the arc or outside. They've got to knock down a couple of jump shots in this game to make Nebraska spread out the defense, and then it'll open some things up on the interior. If they can do that, they're going to be in a really good spot. But otherwise, like we said, Creighton was 10 of 40 from the 3-point line. Nebraska did not play well. They shot. I keep going back to this because it's pretty amazing to beat a number 7 team making 3 3-pointers and shooting 7 free throws. So they're not afraid to get physical, especially in the painted area. So that it's going to be a very interesting matchup. But like I said, I don't know how much we can judge what Nebraska is going to do, or how much Indiana knows what Nebraska is going to do. Your best clip is probably going to be that Creighton game because of the presence of Derek Walton.
Well, yeah, and the fact that this is a place they went and won where they hadn't won since 1995. So this was not at home. Right. So yeah, and they played Indiana tough. Mm-hmm. And they've done so in Bloomington. We've seen it happen, but this team tonight's game is going to be interesting from the standpoint for me, because I want to watch this, see what this Indiana team, do they have to win by 20? No, you can't put that on a team. They're not playing the Sisters of the Poor. They're playing a team that just beat the number 7 team in the country. But I want to see them outwork, out hustle, out rebound, outwork.
Yeah.
Out coach the Nebraska team. That's what I want to see. That's what I think you need to see.
And this is I talk about Nebraska coming in with a lot of confidence, but this could also be a letdown game for them, because they're riding high after beating a rival. Like they said, they hadn't won that game on the road in a long time. It's their first signature win of the season. This is obviously a team that, say what you want, Fred Hoiberg's on the hot seat because they have not performed well. So I don't know. This it's going to be a very interesting game for a lot of reasons, but there's a chance that what we saw from Indiana on Saturday against Rutgers is something we could see from Nebraska on tonight because of that same sort of thing, because of maybe you get a little too overconfident. Maybe it could be a letdown performance for them. So this is going to be an interesting matchup for a lot of reasons. Another thing to keep an eye on is what kind of shot selection do we see from Race Thompson? Have they been listening to the show and run him off the 3-point line? I think fans and Jim may explode if he shoots more than one tonight.
It's not conducive to good offense.
No.
I mean, I don't care if he hits 1 or 2 in a game. No one is going to freaking respect it. And unless he starts shooting 40%, which that is not going to happen, no one is going to respect him out on the damn perimeter. I'm like, go ahead.
Yeah. And if he makes it, he makes it. Yeah.
I'll give you all the space you want, baby. Because
then you get an extra guy to rebound.
At best, I think it's there's a 3/4 chance that he's going to miss it and you're going to get the rebound, that it's a turnover.
Well, the percentages are basically he's going to miss
now
that shot 9 times.
Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Just barely over 9 out of 10 times. So yeah, I don't expect to see. I haven't talked about that. Yeah, I'm not expecting to see Jalen Hood-Schifino tonight. So this is going to be another game that they have to play without him, which is good in a sense because they need to know how to play without Trace Jackson Davis in there. They need to know how to play without Xavier in there. They need to know how to play without Jalen Hood-Schifino in there. Those three guys are the ones that are the tripod, whatever you want to call it, the trident for this team.
The Holy Trinity.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are the three most important players on this team.
Well, so
without question to me.
I agree. So here's one of the things too that I think you can use this, even though it's a negative right now, you can use it as a positive. If you learn to play without some of these guys on the floor in some of these games, they had to play one game without Trace Jackson Davis. They had to play without Jalen Hood-Schifino. If you are able to play and get accustomed to not having a guy for a night, then that helps you down the road when maybe a guy gets in foul trouble later in the season. You only have him for 10 minutes, or if another guy's injured. So getting accustomed to playing with multiple lineups, because over the course of a 30-game season, a guy's going to miss a game. A guy's going to get in foul trouble multiple times throughout the season. So I do think, even though it did not work out for Indiana, they didn't find a way to win. As we've talked about, their offensive performance was poor against Rutgers. I do think that there are some benefits that could pay off at the end of, if they get in those type of situations late in the Big Ten season, potentially in the Big Ten tournament or the NCAA tournament, they can say, hey, we've been through this. We at least have the experience of not having, this player on the floor with us. So I do think there are some benefits. It's better to have, you would have liked to have had it happen maybe against like a Jackson State or Kennesaw State or somebody else. But it happened against Rutgers. You lost. Now how do you bounce back from it? So I do think there are some positives to take away from it, even though, I mean, you do have to dig pretty deep. But there are some positives, and I think there are some things that you can benefit from down the road. It just, when it comes in a loss, it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah, and then Michigan, that's so funny. If you noticed a minute ago when I listed those teams who I expect to be fighting at the top for the Big Ten title, talked five teams. One team I did not list was Michigan, because I do not expect them to vie for the Big Ten title. No longer.
They've not looked good. I mean, they played Kentucky tough over the weekend, but they have not looked good really in any of their games. I mean, I guess they played Virginia close, but they only beat Jackson State by 10. They only beat Ohio by 4. They got boat raced by Arizona State. They only beat Eastern Michigan by 5. They don't really have, outside of a blowout win over Pitt, they really don't have any great wins. They haven't played a Big Ten game yet. So I'm with you on that. I think they're going to get better as the season goes along. But when you look at the teams we've already talked about, Indiana, Purdue, Wisconsin, Maryland, Illinois, Michigan State, it's hard for me to picture Michigan really carving out a spot in those top 4 or 5.
What was I going to say? Purdue, have they become the de facto favorite, or is there a favorite right now? Because we're so early in the season. We played one, and some teams have played twice, but I think most have just played once so far.
I think they're the de facto right now because nobody's found a way to stop Zach Edey, and they probably have the best passing team that they've ever had under Matt Painter. So it's hard to. Here's what I'm going to say about Purdue. They were in this similar spot last year, and they beat Villanova, they beat North Carolina, and everybody was talking about how Purdue is a Final Four team. They didn't win the Big Ten. They didn't win the Big Ten tournament. They didn't get to the Final Four. So, and Gonzaga and Duke maybe don't look. They have those 2 signature wins, don't maybe look as good as what we thought they were going to be. So I'm still in wait and see mode. I think that they are I don't think there's a number 1 favorite. I think the teams that you mentioned could all easily win or share the Big Ten. But I think that the reason they're going to be considered the favorite is because so far through 8 games, nobody's had an answer for Zach Edey. He just had 30-some points and 20 rebounds against Minnesota.
My Big Ten top 4 right now would be Purdue number 1, Illinois number 2, Indiana number 3, and Michigan State number 4.
Okay, I can get behind that.
That's exactly where this week, if I did the power rankings, which I probably need to start putting out, of the week right now, it's Purdue 1, Illinois 2, Indiana 3.
I think I'm on board with that, yeah.
And that changes week to week because teams get better, worse at the time, and we'll see who's doing what. Yeah, that's the Mendoza line right there.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not. I don't agree with that. Not 2 games, no. But that is possible. But I don't. 15-5 is always kind of the magic line in the conference a lot. If someone can do that, that's kind of like a tweet I sent out the other day. I'm like, all right, Indiana lost this one. All they have to do is you win your home games in the conference. You've got to win at home. Can't lose a game at home. All you have to do on the road is you've got to win half.
Yep.
You just win half.
That puts you at 15-5.
Boom, 15-5 in the conference. Now, what that means though is there's a couple teams that you're going to have to beat that are going to be tough games that maybe you're not supposed to win. But there's a couple games that you have to win because you're supposed to win as well.
So this would be my question. Is there a game on Indiana's schedule they're not supposed to win?
Well, yeah, at Purdue.
You think they're not
at Illinois?
Okay, so I guess I view this a little bit differently. When you say not supposed to win, I think that those teams would be favored in those games, but I don't think
there's the reason they're favored because it is expected that they are going to win the game.
Right. I guess my thought is if I say a game you're not supposed to, that would be to me a game you go in thinking you have no chance. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Any game that you're not favored in, you're not supposed to win.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Sure.
Indiana is not expected to win at Purdue. Is not going to be expected to win at Purdue unless something drastically changes. They're not going to be expected to win at Illinois unless something. That doesn't mean they can't.
Right. Okay.
But they're not expected to. So those are the games. But then there's games that like at Michigan. I don't know what the lines on that game's going to be.
Right.
At Ohio State, at those mid-level teams, at Iowa. There's just a lot of places.
And there's another one too. This one always I feel like this is one that's always kind of trappy for Indiana. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that game in January on the road against Penn State, that always seems to give Indiana trouble. I think it's because their gym is nobody's ever there, so it's like playing in one of those invitationals that nobody shows up to. That's one that's look. Penn State's not always the greatest team, but if you can get a road win, I think it's kind of like Northwestern in football. It's like a different sort of home court advantage.
Absolutely. But yeah, I just that's Jared says he doubts IU will have a Big Ten game where they are even as an underdog. Okay, remember read that. He doubts IU has a Big Ten game where they are even as an underdog at worst. So I think he's saying he doesn't expect to be an underdog in any game. I'm not reading that. Am I reading that correctly? You read it and you tell me.
Yeah. So what he's saying is they're never going to be more than a 3-point underdog.
Well, okay, yeah. I'll give you that. They're a damn top 15 team. Nor should you be. Nor should you be. Yeah, that's within reason. But they're still an underdog. And I'm not saying, yeah. I don't want the point to have gotten lost. Gee whiz, to have gotten lost. But yeah, there's just going to be. But that's the same case for Illinois. That's going to be the
same case for Purdue.
A little less for Purdue, I bet. I bet their lines are a little tighter. It's going to be interesting to see what the Indiana at Purdue line is versus the Purdue at Indiana line.
Correct. Yes.
So. Ed points out right there. Wisconsin was a 1-point favorite last night against Maryland.
By the way,
at home.
By the way, basketball. I would never the betting stuff with basketball. Man,
I love it.
Hats off to you guys if you place bets on basketball because I have no beat on the spreads for those.
I like
for
football
whatever
a lot
reason.
better.
I do too.
I think we've got to take a break. I don't want to get smacked on the hands. John, the producer. Hey, don't forget, we're brought to you by our good friends, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harris, and Scott County areas, all down through there, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services has served that community for over 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or my man, Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. They'll get you taken care of. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio. It's game day right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
All right, I got an update for you.
Yeah.
Alec is joining us at 9:50 since Rick will not be with us. And your first 2 clips that don't involve swear words are loaded.
Don't involve swears.
So this
No
is
swears.
9:30, and we can do Woody.
And Kyle
Man!
will be coming up as well.
Oh, at 9:30?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's Kyle then. All right. Shit.
I have not heard from him, but I have messaged him, so that is kind of hit or miss. But I expect him to be here.
Then we'll have to do Woody in the 10:10.
Is
Man, 2 guests to cancel today. That sucks ass.
That's actually the second day this week that's happened. One of them we knew ahead of time with Don Fisher, and then we didn't know about Dustin DePiric on Monday.
My Jeff?
God.
Is there some fire to the smoke about this? Jeff Brohm will be named.
That's why Rick Bozich can't come on, because that's apparently stuff's going down right now.
Wow.
Are you really shocked?
Yeah. Somebody asked for my opinion. I said I was 55-45 on him staying at Purdue. And him going, I said the only reason is because the ACC stinks and he can go and win championships there. Way easier than he can at Purdue. And it's his home.
I just don't think he can turn it down a second time, because I don't know that they would. I mean, maybe they would offer it a third time, but
Of course they would. Of course.
I guess it's like Indiana offering Brad Stevens 4 or 5 million times.
But don't worry, John. If Louisville didn't hire Jeff Brohm, they would undoubtedly have to make a coaching change in the next 3 or 4 years anyway.
Who's got the most up to date on the Brohm thing?
I just typed Brohm into my search, and I don't even know if it's a reputable source. That's why I was asking the question.
Are you talking about on Twitter?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, I saw someone say something that it would be announced tomorrow. And but it's hard to tell who's actually a verified account anymore, because people can just.
Yes, that's why
I hate it, because I don't know.
John, just a little click on the blue dot or on the blue check, and it tells you whether or not someone's paying for that or not.
Oh, does it really?
Oh, it tells you if it's okay. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. How about that?
Yep. This person has a verified account because they're paying for services.
They should give him like a red check mark. Like, can we just differentiate the two? Like,
I think he's going to. I thought I saw that Elon was going to do that. I could be wrong. I don't know anything.
Like, actually make it red or just a different color?
I think just a different color.
Different colors.
Okay. All right, here we go.
With no extra charge, so leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Hump Day, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway here at the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com with me. John, the producer, keeping us between the lines. It's game day. Indiana basketball hosts Nebraska tonight. Number 14, Indiana, hosting Nebraska tonight. Little scuttle on the Twitter in regards to Purdue football coach Jeff Brohm very possibly going to Louisville by Rick. Are you saying Rick Bozich?
That would be my guess.
If that's Rick Bozich saying that, that's something. And says he will be named by the end of the week and will coach the bowl game.
He'll coach the bowl game?
How in the hell? Well, I'll tell you how. I'll tell you somebody, an even bigger. Bob Stoops did that last year. Out of the broadcast booth, onto the sideline.
He did do that. That was incredible.
At least this coach would be going from the sideline to the sideline. But
right,
this would be an all-timer. Has that ever happened?
What's that? A coach coaching the bowl game?
Team and finish the season with one team, join another, and coach them. Then that would be not. Maybe we can ask Kyle this. Yeah. Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star. He did.
Yep.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me with him.
Okay.
Kyle Neddenriep from Indy Star joining us, brother. How have you been?
I missed that. What are you guys talking about?
Louisville, the Louisville football job. Scott Satterfield leaves to go to Cincinnati. Jeff Brohm, of course, the scuttlebutt. Everyone thinks that he's going to be coming to Louisville again. The thought, but it seems like a much more of a potential this time. But we had someone say that if this is Rick Bozich that made this comment, that the new coach will be named before the end of the week and coach in their bowl game. I'm like, has it ever happened that a coach finishes a college season and then coaches another team in their bowl game for that very season? He said Scott Frost did that. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, he did at Central Florida. Yeah, I think that was part of the deal was he wanted to finish that season out. I think they were 12-0 or whatever, and then started his new job. But yeah, it's pretty unusual, obviously, because you want to get started with your recruiting at the other end of it. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens with that. We've got a ton of kids committed to Purdue locally in this class, so obviously that have some ramifications in our immediate area if that does happen. I've kind of heard that it's definitely possible.
And I think too, this would be interesting to me. You never know how this stuff plays out, but there's also a coach south of Indianapolis who desperately needs to try to find a way to save his job for next season. This might be the time to strike while the iron's hot if you're Tom Allen. Yeah, I mean, do you agree with that on some of these recruits?
Oh yeah, and I'd have to go. I mean, there's a lot of like I said, a lot of local talent that's going to Purdue this coming year. So. Yeah, I mean, if you're doing your job, you're I'm not saying you're doing that yet, but if things kind of go the way you think they are, then yeah, I mean, you're if they're, and I'm not saying everybody's on the table but guys you've already had relationships with, you're probably trying to keep those doors open with anyway because the transfer portal being what it is now, so it's like you never want to close any doors in this day and age, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely, and some of these guys had IU in their group of finalists, or they were considering them anyway. So it's open season. If this does happen it's going to be, there's quite a bit of talent in that class that it's going to be, and some of them may stay committed to Purdue. Maybe that they end up staying there depending on what the coaching situation looks like. But if there's any opening, you can bet that IU and others are going to be involved with a lot of these guys.
Well, they're certainly going to hope to be, because I'm going to be very curious by the time everything the dust settles after the transfers and the portal. Who's left for Indiana? What do they have? What were they able to bring in? Because after back-to-back seasons, non-winning seasons, it gets harder and harder. And on top of that, you're coming into a situation to where it's potentially a lame duck coach that's going to be there. For transfers, it's probably not as big of a deal, because especially they've got 1 year, they just want to find a place to go play, maybe show their wares, get to the Big Ten, who knows what it could be. But I just can't imagine Indiana being able to put together a competitive team after this season with all the unknowns with their program.
Well, and there's a lot of negativity right now, and I get it. I mean, they had a terrible season. They're losing players, it seems like, right and left. But I will say, this can also work in your favor. You have a chance to kind of reshape your roster. You can get guys who maybe they didn't have an opportunity elsewhere. And to me, it's always like you're one quarterback away, and it's not only that, but college football is so predicated on the quarterback position, that you're never that. It may seem miles away, and it may seem like a stratosphere away from being competitive, but it's not. It's able to be fixed to a certain extent, if you can get the right guys in. So you have to look at it that way too, I think. And I get why there's negativity right now, and certainly IU football has been through that many times over. But use this transfer portal stuff as a positive too. I mean, look at it that way. I mean, it can work in your favor if you use it the right way, I think. And like I said, it's college football is never about one guy necessarily, but if you get the right quarterback in there, and if you kind of get people believe in what you're doing again, it's possible to get this thing turned around, and you'll look a lot better by the time the season comes around.
Kyle, well, quarterback is going to be a problem, Dustin. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead. But yeah, that's a major issue for Indiana, quarterback.
I was going to say Indiana might be 5 offensive linemen away. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Kyle, you brought up the transfer portal, and I don't know if I've had the opportunity to ask you this question. I'm curious to know, with the transfer portal and players shifting divisions and that sort of thing, have you seen a major impact with high school recruits? Because this is just my own perception, is that when you recruit so heavily out of the transfer portal, that seems to hinder what you're going to do at the high school level. And maybe it doesn't give as many kids quite the same opportunity. I mean, have you seen some sort of that impact, or is it basically the same as it was before the transfer portal? We just don't maybe hear quite as much about it because everybody's looking for that next, big name guy that's transferring schools.
No, it's definitely changed it. And I can speak probably even more to the basketball side of things, that it's made a big influence on, the schools that I've talked to coaches at the college level who say, hey, we're recruiting the transfer portal, not the high school, to a certain extent. You're always going to recruit the top 100 guy, the top ranked guys. They're never going to have a problem getting offers and getting, finding where they can pick where they want to go for the most part. But it's maybe more that mid-major, the guys who are possibly like a Missouri Valley type of player, or pick your conference. But, those guys may, because those schools are going to recruit, they're going to see who's out there, who comes out of the portal, who may not play at a Big Ten school, that they may try to pick up the following year first. And that's how I would do it, honestly, because those guys are proven to a certain extent at the college level. So, you're basing your recruiting off, a proven and a non-proven situation, So, and I get that. The way it's currently set up, if I was coaching at a Missouri State where I went to school, that's how I would recruit too. But I mean, it filters down. I mean, there's obviously, and I always think too, like those guys are going to end up they're going to end up playing. It's just that their offers aren't coming as early as they used to. Their recruiting isn't coming as early as it used to. There's guys out there now that I cover who are Division I players in basketball who, they're not, they just don't have. There's not any buzz around them, and that's different. And I think once the COVID year filters out, I think that'll also affect
good point.
Maybe things going back to some normalcy. But that's going to take, what is that? Probably 2 more years of that. So, that's probably an overlooked part of this too. But yeah, I mean, it happens in football too. Football's bigger rosters, obviously, so there's more spots available. But yeah, everyone's recruiting the portal, and you see all the names in there with football this week, and it's like, it's dominating Twitter,
exactly,
minute by minute. So it's a different world, and I don't blame kids if that's the way the system is now. You go find where you can play, and makes it hard for coaches to keep continuity with rosters. But until something changes, that's going to be the way it is.
Yeah, well, we look at like right now. I'll use basketball as an example, and Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson. Indiana has very, very little presence of IU kids on their roster. Where you look at Purdue, and it's a majority of Indiana kids, and I know that they want the best players on their team possible. Period, no matter where they come from, but there's a mix, and it's just taking them. I think partly is because this 24 seasons does not have, it's not very strong in Indiana. Next year is pretty strong, and it won't be until the 25 class that Indiana really starts to recruit. I think get some Indiana guys on their roster if they're able to get Harrelson or Sisley and guys like that. But it's just something that Indiana fans want to see. They don't have to have a roster of them, but there is a mix, especially when you see an Indiana team that continues to have shooting problems. I see it. I get it all the time. People are like, "Why do we get it?" It doesn't work that way, but it's part of it was timing, what was available, the spots that were needed, and this, that, and the other thing, and it just hasn't worked out for Indiana. But it's weird. It's weird not seeing more Indiana guys on this roster. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Purdue is kind of that team now. And part of that is the continuity of Matt Painter being there forever. And it's he has a presence. I was at the Brownsburg or at the Santa Sneakers for Santa event Saturday at Brownsburg, and Painter's there the whole day, and IU had a game, so obviously that's it's just kind of the nature of the schedule. Purdue played Sunday, so. Painter was there the whole time, and, he's such a low key, people feel like they know him. I think he's been there so long and people like him, as far as I know. I mean, everyone I talk to, he's just a down to earth type of dude. And Woodson's like that, he's people like him too, but he just hasn't been there as long. So I think it takes a little time to establish that, but he, like I said, I mean, Painter's just, I think people in the state just know what his program's about. And he's been knocking them out of the park on recruiting. I mean, it's uncanny how well they find guys that fit what they do. And credit to him for finding them. Not only that, but bringing kids in who are okay with whatever role they have. That's another thing too. Is you can't just bring in guys who all think they're going to be the star player. So. It's a combination of things, and they're not always going to bat 1,000, and neither is IU. And I think I've told you this before, Jim. I think, if you're going to the Final Four with not any Indiana kids on your roster at IU, no one's going to say anything, But if it's once you lose, then that's when it's like, oh, why aren't we getting Kyle Guy and Trey Lyles and Gary Harris and all those, the guys that missed through the years? That's when it starts to become a problem. But if Mike Woodson's in the top 10 and that's not going to be an issue, but yeah, Purdue's kind of, you're never going to lock the borders and all that stuff. That's just not reality anymore. But I think IU people always want a little bit of in-state influence on that team. And Harrelson and Sisley, I think are, they're probably next in line to potentially be those guys. Maybe Flory Badunga is out, in the 24 class, but that's that's a more of a national recruitment too. So, who knows, but yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're in the top 10, then it doesn't matter if your kids are all from California, people are going to be happy.
Hey, make sure you go to Kyle, one of Kyle's latest pieces. They've got the 2023 Silver Anniversary team out there today, and some names that you'll notice just amongst the many. Tom Coverdale from Noblesville, a former Hoosier, of course. Queeth Dwaney from Bloomington North. Where did he end up playing college? Oh, yes, Syracuse. Another Bloomington North guy that did not go to Indiana, Jabril Conte. Let's see, who else was someone on there? I saw Jared Odell, former Hoosier. And there's many others, but just great stuff in addition to everything else Kyle has. But another great read. That just went out today, didn't it?
That came out last night, I think.
Oh, today is the 7th. My bad. I'm losing my dates already. What else is next? What's up next for you?
We have our Mr. Football position award winners are out, and we'll be probably next week sometime. I guess late in the week will be Mr. Football announced. Don't know who that is. The voting's open till I think through the end of the week. So that's ongoing. We'll have our football super team. And like I said, we'll have, if Jeff Brohm does end up leaving today or whenever, hopefully we'll be finding out more about that. And, I'll be trying to track down some recruits. And I don't know if anybody's going to have an immediate response or not, but and if that even happens, it's yet to be seen, but we'll see. But yeah, and then covering Lawrence North, Lawrence Central basketball tonight, and the Forum Tip-Off Classic is Saturday at Southport also, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, lots of action in that each and every year, man. Looking forward to it. Kyle, I can't thank you enough.
All right, Jim. See you, Dustin.
Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow, be a subscriber. Keep up on what all is going on in the area of Indiana high school basketball and football. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, all part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Metalworks Brewing Company located right off the square in Bloomington in the old Function Brewery location, catty corner from Cabello Restaurant. They enjoy being a servant to the community, their love of craft art and craft beer. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a... Oh, my goodness.
Morning, Alec. Thanks for coming on late notice.
Yeah.
No, and Jim, he mentioned, and I'm going to go ahead and let you know, to be out, make sure we're right at 10:10 because he has to do something at 10:15.
Out at 10:10.
10:10.
Jim, when do you get in on? Are you going Friday to Vegas?
Thursday.
Are you, Thursday night? Okay, because they may be doing something live in person Friday, but they haven't announced anything yet. But I think I don't get in until late Friday. So, but Keegan gets there Friday morning, and then Kyler gets there Thursday night. So,
bam.
There was something else. Damn. Fudge. You know that Pat Knight and Dean Garrett live out in Las Vegas, right?
I did not know that. I knew Dean did. I didn't know Pat did as well.
Yep. God dang it. I got so much crap to do today.
Sounds fun.
What time's the game start? 6:30?
Tonight?
8:15, isn't it?
8:30.
You say it's a weekday game. It's usually later than that.
Oh, crap.
Which honestly, you might as well just take the tip they give you and add 15 minutes because that's typically what happens.
That is true. Yep.
And then if they review every freaking play like they did in the Rutgers game, add another 15 minutes to the
God. I was like, let's review the popcorn.
All right, here we go.
Metalworks Brewing Company is the culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Wednesday, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you, Dustin Schutte as well, joined now by Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com, as tonight the Indiana Hoosiers take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, in which normally we would have said, all right, this should be a nice little tune-up game, Alec, but then they went and knocked off the number 7 Creighton Blue Jays on the road at a place they hadn't won since 1995.
Yeah, and I mean, this Nebraska team coming off a couple good wins. Obviously, Florida State, not the team that they have been, but handled them pretty easily a couple games ago. Handled Boston College pretty easily in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So 3 in a row, obviously capped off by that Creighton win, which I think a lot of people were shocked and surprised by, especially the way that Nebraska defended them. Look, Nebraska plays a much different style, but very similarly to what Rutgers plays. They like to grind it out. They play a very slow tempo type of game. They like to kind of get in your face and be the tougher team. It's not typically a pretty style of basketball, and this is a game that Indiana's at least scheme wise and style wise has kind of struggled with in the past. And obviously, we saw how they struggled against Rutgers in the kind of toughness category. So it's a game that obviously can't be taken lightly, but a game that Indiana needs to come out and obviously put on a good performance in and not look too far ahead, obviously, with the big one coming up on Saturday.
And, one of the things, Alec, that I look back to, and I sound like a broken record because I mentioned this 84 times already, but it's the statistics that I can't just get over. I mean, Nebraska won that game, 3 3-pointers, shot 7 free throws. So to me, this is a game where, all right, Indiana took a punch in the mouth against Rutgers. Now you're going to have to come up and, as you mentioned, they're going to have to play a team that maybe not the most skilled, but they're going to be physical. They're going to try to set the tone in this game. And if they're the more physical team, Indiana's going to have its hands full. So I'm interested to see how this IU team responds after a loss against a team that they're going to have to – it's going to be a physical matchup, like you said, just like last weekend. So how do they respond after kind of failing that test last week against Rutgers?
Yeah, and one thing with Nebraska, they play that aggressive physical style of basketball without fouling. They're one of the least whistle teams in the country. They're only giving up about 9 free throws a game. Creighton only got 5. So, and Creighton's a very physical team as well. And so when you look at Indiana, a team that typically gets to the foul line a decent amount, especially a guy like Trace Jackson Davis, who kind of likes to muscle his way through there in the paint, this is a game where it's probably not going to have a lot of whistles. And that's tending to kind of side on a team like Nebraska, because Indiana, they like to kind of ream the refs a little bit here and there, especially some of the backcourt players. Xavier Johnson, if it doesn't go his way, right, he likes to complain a bit, and we saw that entire team complain a lot against Rutgers when fouls did not go their way or fouls were supposed to go their way and didn't. So this is more so, yes, they need to come out and be physically ready, but I think more so mentally they need to be prepared for a physical, grinded out kind of game. And it's a game, again, that they have won in the past, but it's, the recent memory of Rutgers is obviously laying large here.
Yeah, the Nebraska Cornhuskers coming in, they've always played Indiana kind of tough. They're catching Indiana at a bad time for them, I would hope. Coming off of this loss to Rutgers, and even with that win at Creighton, giving them a lot of confidence. This is going to be I want to see how Indiana responds. Like I said earlier, they don't have to win this game by 20, but they need to win this game. To me, the spread is like 13 points, which is a little surprising that it's that big. I would have thought more like 10, 11. If they win by 11, 12, I'm like, okay, that's a win. But if it's a tight win, I think you got to have a little bit of concern for the conference.
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, conference games are tough to come by, regardless of who you're playing. So as long as they get a win, I think that's the most important part. Right, bounce back. It's probably not going to be, like I said, a super pretty type of basketball, especially if Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be out, which it sounds like he probably won't play. Obviously, still some time before game time, and Mike Woodson didn't come out and obviously say that right off the bat, but just doesn't sound like he's going to be out on the floor tonight. So you're going to see a lot of that same offense that Indiana ran last year, that Indiana ran against Rutgers, which was not very pretty. Nebraska, again, likes to get up and guard, and it's going to come down to just keeping their cool, especially in that backcourt. Xavier Johnson needs to have a much better game than what he had against Rutgers if Indiana wants to come out and not just win this game, but be comfortable in this game from start to finish. But I think Nebraska's defense is definitely going to put a hurt on Indiana, at least to start. I'd like to see what Indiana does if Trayce Jackson-Davis is doubled, because that's been a big storyline following the Rutgers game, of just kind of the lack of movement that Indiana had around him. And it looked very similar to that offense of last year where, at times they just continue to look for Trayce Jackson-Davis and just ball watch. And that's something that obviously can't happen when this offense is clicking on all cylinders. That's when there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of high ball screens, right? The guards are getting downhill and kicking out to Miller Kopp or whoever that may be in the corner. So, I think this game is going to be a little bit closer than what people think. But I still think Indiana, has the attitude that they need coming into this one. Whereas maybe if they did beat Rutgers, that they would have a little bit of a lull before Saturday.
So one of the things that I think we noticed in that Rutgers game, without Jalen Hood-Schifino on the floor, was probably the first time this season, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we saw Xavier Johnson kind of press, where he maybe felt like he needed to do more because he didn't have his running mate in the backcourt for this game. I mean, is there some sort of – Mike Woodson has talked about, like, we don't need him to do what he did basically last year towards the end of the season. He doesn't have to be that guy. I feel like part of this game comes down to him. I don't want to call it selfishness, but him realizing that there are still 4 other guys on the floor. And even though maybe he doesn't spend as much time on the floor with Trey Galloway or whoever's going to get the start tonight, he can feel comfortable in trusting his teammates. I just didn't feel like he was quite as trustworthy in the backcourt and throughout that game as he has been through the previous 7 games.
Yeah, and he hasn't. And Mike Woodson talked about it post-game as well, and talked about it a little bit yesterday when we got to talk to him, just him pressing way too much, right? I mean, he was trying to do everything for that team when he didn't need to, right? And I mean, that's probably the first time this season that we've seen that out of him. But again, that's the first time that Jalen Hood-Schifino's not been in the lineup, right? And you had other guys that weren't really playing, up to their full potential. Trey Galloway had just come back. You don't typically see a lot of Trey Galloway as that secondary ball handler with Xavier Johnson. So that's a little bit of getting used to. As much as Trey Galloway can drive, get into the paint, and still facilitate, right? There's definitely a drop off in overall offensive ability when Jalen Hood-Schifino's not on the floor compared to someone like Trey Galloway. And again, that's not to take anything away from Trey Galloway, because he does a fantastic job for this team. Right. And he was pretty much the only one who was able to get into the middle of that Rutgers defense and at least create some open looks for other guys on the floor. But I mean, that was the first game that he really, really pressed. You could tell kind of from start to finish. I think, again, the road environment played a little bit into that as well with him. So being back at home is going to be kind of more of a calming, influence, especially with that crowd. But he needs to play better. He knows he needs to play better. Mike Woodson talked about how Xavier Johnson and him watched film multiple times of that Rutgers game since the game ended. So, I think that's, just a little blip on the radar there of something that you're probably going to see maybe 1 or 2 more times this year. But for the most part, Xavier Johnson, I think, is going to be much better tonight and obviously moving forward, and they need him to be.
Alec, a couple matchups that I think are going to be key. Obviously, Nebraska, as you put out in the piece, led by 6'8" forward Derek Walker. Also at guard, it's Sam Grizzell, 6'2" guard, who has the ball in his hands the most. For Walker, I'm assuming Race Thompson will draw that assignment since he's an inside-out guy. I don't know.
It'll probably be more Trace, because a guy like Juwan Gary, who's that other kind of front court player, much more of an athletic, much more of like a Jordan Geronimo-esque athletic guy who likes to kind of hang out on the perimeter. a little bit more than Derek Walker in terms of ability to score from the outside. Derek Walker is going to use his strength, use his kind of aggressive nature to even if he is on the perimeter, get downhill. And I think you'd much rather have a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis on him, where even if Derek Walker beats him a little bit, you still have that shot blocking ability and recovery from Trayce Jackson-Davis, as opposed to Race Thompson, who's probably not obviously to that extent of a shot blocker, and utilize Race Thompson a little bit more on a guy like Juwan Gary. But I mean, the front court matchup, I think is going to be difficult for Indiana, not in terms of star power, but they have the athletic ability and the quickness to get this front court in foul trouble. I think this is a game where Jordan Geronimo could come into and kind of see his role increase a little bit and see his minutes increase with that athletic ability and with that versatility defensively, at least. And Malik Reneau is going to have to step up. He's had a couple off games playing against higher level competition here against North Carolina, got in foul trouble a lot. And then obviously against Rutgers was in foul trouble at times as well too. So he's going to need to play better. That entire front court is going to need to be ready. And Race Thompson needs to step up as well. He's had a pretty poor start to the season so far. So if this front court's not ready to play, the Nebraska front court is not something to kind of push to the side here.
I don't want to backcourt one quickly, Dustin. Sam Grizel, like I said, Xavier, I'm assuming will draw that assignment since he's got the most of the ball handling assignments. Xavier's going to have to stay out of foul trouble as well, because that is something that could be most problematic for Indiana right there. They cannot have Xavier get into foul trouble tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting. I think assuming Trey Galloway gets the start, if Jalen Hood-Schifino's not out there, which he did against Rutgers, I think he may draw that start, because you don't want to pick up that quick early foul on Xavier Johnson and lose that aggressiveness that he has on both ends of the floor. So I would probably play him a little bit more off of the ball there. But I think Trey Galloway will probably get a lot of those minutes. It's going to be a team effort, especially defensively. But I think Trey Galloway, especially the job that he did against Caleb Love, some of the Carolina guards as well. And then when he was on the floor guarding the main ball handlers for Rutgers, what he did there too. So I think kind of give that responsibility to Trey Galloway and hope that Xavier Johnson doesn't pick up a quick one early, trying to reach in or especially offensively being a little bit out of control.
Basketball can be a complex game, so let me know if I'm oversimplifying this. My sense for this one is, Alec, I feel like if Indiana can knock down some of the perimeter shots and really stretch Nebraska's defense, unlike they were able to do against Rutgers, I feel like Indiana might be able to run away with it. If they're maybe even not behind the three-point line, if they're just able to hit some jump shots and force Nebraska to defend the entire half court, basically, I think that really opens things up for this Indiana offense, especially on the interior, and maybe makes life a little bit easier for Trayce Jackson-Davis. If they don't, that's where they get into this rock fight. And then all of a sudden, if you're depending on Trayce and he's getting double teamed and they can't hit a jump shot, that's where I feel like this team could get in trouble. So again, maybe I'm oversimplifying things. I just feel like hitting jump shots in this game, especially early, kind of setting that tone and stretching that Nebraska defense, to me is going to be a huge factor. Like I think it could be, you're going to know the tempo of this game, maybe within the first two television timeouts, like the first 8 minutes of this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, making shots helps everything offensively. Mike Woodson talked about that, saying, it's not scientific. It's just, making the shots that you need to. And Indiana did get some open looks against Rutgers. They just weren't able to finish there. But Nebraska, allows opponents to take 24 threes a game, allows opponents to make 8 threes a game. So it's not like they limit the opportunities from the perimeter. So if Indiana is getting those chances, which I think they're still going to get, it's probably going to come down to who outside of Miller Kopp is going to be able to make. Obviously, Miller Kopp's shown this year that he is that knockdown shooter that they need. He's been obviously very consistent in that category from game one to last week, and I think last week showed that he's ready even to take that next step as a scorer for this team. But yeah, I mean, if they're not able to make those outside shots, they're probably going to end up looking into Trace Jackson-Davis and those big guys a little bit more. And that's when that defense collapses. And that's when it comes back to the potential double teams and what this offense is going to do on the perimeter to make it easier for a guy like Trace Jackson-Davis to either kick it out or to at least spread out that defense just a little bit more.
What are you wanting to see from this team after that loss on the road at Rutgers before they head out to Las Vegas?
Yeah, again, the biggest thing is if they get punched in the mouth early or at any point in this game to be able to show that toughness that they do have. Miller Kopp talked about it yesterday. They wouldn't be in this situation if they didn't have toughness. It just Rutgers out-toughed them last weekend, but I think they just an overall collective group. I think that was a good kind of punch in the mouth that they needed to realize that, hey, Big Ten season's here. Maybe we're not as tough as we really thought we were. So I want to see that. And, again, it gets down to what we talked about earlier. I want to see Xavier Johnson play within himself, which he has the ability to do. And they're so much better when he does that. And we'll see what happens with the bench, right? I mean, the bench was non-existent against Rutgers. You take Jalen Hood-Schifino off the floor, you move Trey Galloway, who's typically that spark off of the bench into the starting lineup, and it lost a little bit of that firepower in the second unit. So if that's the same rotation, guys like Tamar Bates definitely going to have to step up and maybe not see the scoring performance that we saw against Jackson State, but see a little bit more consistency with him. And that's been the biggest thing with Tamar Bates ever since he got on campus was just that inconsistent offensive performance from game to game, or even from possession to possession. So I think that's big, and just finding a little bit more consistency out of him.
Well, we'll look forward to it tonight as Indiana hosts the Nebraska Cornhuskers tonight at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Alec Lasley and the entire thehoosier.com crew will be covering that game.
Sounds good. Should be a good one.
Appreciate you, brother. Look forward to it. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got to hear from Mike Woodson up next. Dustin Schutte and myself return, brought to you by Cabello, a proud partner of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club Network. Cabello, located on the square in Bloomington, looking for something great for lunch or dinner? Visit Cabello, located on the square, like I said, the northern side. Experience the tastes and traditions of the Italian heritage right here in southern Indiana. Handmade pastas and handmade desserts and much more. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I was talking to someone yesterday, like late in the day.
Dustin's leaving, by the way.
I'm still out at 10:10 today.
Oh, I hate you.
You got Mike Woodson, though.
Yeah, you have that. He leaves at 10:10 every day. Well, he'll remember eventually.
We got it. It was a great show. I'll see you guys in the morning.
See ya. I've got the expletive clip too. If you really want to use it, I have all three.
Can you? Well, I don't want you.
Yes, I'll edit it out. It's no big deal.
Edit it out now or later?
Afterward.
Okay, because it's much funnier with. Oh my God! Yeah, that's the best one yet. All right, so we'll just go in order 1, 2, 3 then.
Yeah, the rebounding one, the Miller Kopp one, and then the swearing one. What am I looking for?
Oh wait! What was the second one?
At least I have it marked as Miller Kopp. Someone asked about shooting or Miller Kopp or something. It's the very next question. At least in terms of the question, like if you're looking at the whole video.
It's on Xavier, I believe.
Okay. I remember hearing mention of Miller Kopp somewhere in there. That's why I marked it as Miller Kopp. He probably mentioned multiple players.
Maybe. Are you talking about the rebounding or the second one?
The second one.
Oh, wait a minute. So it's 604 and then 750. So
yeah,
you're
that's the one
about
I'm talking about.
750. All right, that's 2 point guards.
Okay. A minute and a half still.
I marked the last one as funny shit. Yeah, Friday is going to be very enjoyable.
Will be fun.
You don't even know what I was getting ready to say.
Oh, you're going to talk about the show? I thought you were talking about something else.
Well, I am in a way. Yeah, I will arrive in Las Vegas at around 2:30 a.m. our time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the show is in 5 hours, damn it, not 3. I was hoping to just stay up. I don't like going to sleep with a couple hours to go.
The only thing I advise is just keep your ringer on full blast. That's all I recommend. If you want to fall asleep, which you probably should get some sleep, I would assume.
Well, that ringer is, trust me, the alarm I have on that phone will wake me up before that ringer does.
All right, here we go.
Because Southern Stone strives to always provide their guests with an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
How's everybody doing on this Wednesday hump day? We've made it to the halfway point. Jim Coyle with you. Another great show. Indiana takes on Nebraska tonight at 8:30 on the Big Ten Network. I saw Stephen Bardo and Mr. Kugler doing that game. Starts at 8:30. We had the opportunity to talk to Woody yesterday about the remnants of the Rutgers game. For the most part, is what the conversations were about and what going forward. Obviously, rebounding they got punked. I mean, flat out punked, man. They got outworked, out hustled, out coached, out shot, out everything. They just got outed. And no excuse for that, because all it takes is hard work. You're better. If you're better, be better. So there's that. But here's what Mike had to say about that, about getting out rebounded, about getting outworked, out hustled.
Well, to me, rebounding is guts and just going when that ball goes up, not ball watch. You got to go find bodies to put your body on to block out. And we didn't do that. Especially with our perimeter plays. And our bigs got busted a couple of times too, not, putting bodies on bodies. So, it's just effort and guts, man, because that's, rebounding is a big part of winning basketball games. And it was so glaring based on what they did to us from a rebounding standpoint. And it started right from the start. And, we haven't been smacked in the face like that from a rebounding standpoint. I thought our defense was good, guys. It wasn't too bad. You give up 63 points on the road. You got to be happy about that. But rebounding, we were 3 turnovers above where we normally are. But I don't think that played a major factor. I just don't think we executed against the press, because there were holes where we just didn't get the ball out quick enough, and they capitalized on it. And we've been pretty good against presses, and Trace has been pretty good against double teams. But when the ball did come out, we didn't make shots. Looking at the tape, we missed a lot of good open shots too.
And there's not a lot you can do about that, because there's some truth there on the missed shots. But the other thing you can do a hell of a lot about, and that's just work your butt off. But there's no question that not having Jalen Hood-Schifino was a huge loss. And I don't think anyone knew how much it was going to be until you can actually see it. I don't know that Xavier knew how difficult it was going to be, because I promise you, that's about as frustrated as I've ever seen somebody on the court when he called that timeout
when he got boxed into the corner in the front court there. And he's going to have to play with a little less emotion. That's hard to ask of emotional people, but you've got to ride that line, man, to where that works for you, not against you. But not having him in there for the first time we saw the difficulties and what that does to this offense. Trey Galloway, it's not a knock on him, but he's not Jalen Hood-Schifino, man. But let's hear what Mike had to say about not having Jalen Hood and not having the use of those 2 point guards they have been using all year.
Well, you had a great game against North Carolina, not Northwestern, but let me say this. I think the fact that, we have been training the last really 6 months now with two point guards. And we've kind of taken the ball out of X's hands a little bit. And not having Jalen on the floor, it put it back in his hands in a dominant way, which is okay. But you got to be smart about some of the things you're doing. I think X was just trying to do too much. He kind of, to me, converted back to when I first got him. And, that's, for the sake of our team, he doesn't have to do a whole lot. He's got to do his part, but he's got to also make sure that everybody's involved and he's not just going off on a tirade doing things that he shouldn't do. And, ain't no doubt, missing Jalen hurt, having another ball handler to take the slack off a little bit from him. But, hey, I don't know when Jalen's going to get back. And, we're going to have to figure it out, with X running the point and Tamar and Galloway, helping him with CJ helping him handle the basketball out front.
Yeah, tonight is going to be another opportunity for that. I would imagine. I am not expecting Jalen Hood-Schifino to play. That has not been made official or anything like that, but just going by knowing that they have to travel so quickly after this game to get to Las Vegas to take on a really, really good Arizona team. I would be surprised to see him play in this night game tonight on top of that. So this is going to be an opportunity for Indiana to learn a little bit more and to better that offense without Jalen in there. And they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to learn to operate that way. X is going to have to he's going to have to be more trusting, I guess. He does not have Jalen Hood-Schifino there. It's Trey Galloway, but he's going to have to be more trusting. You also have to realize this offense no longer has a Trey Galloway coming off the bench. So there's a trickle-down effect of what it does to this offense. You need guys like Race Thompson to step up, guys like Miller Kopp, who did the other night. And Trace Jackson Davis, even though he was getting double teamed most of the time, and he worked pretty hard the other night. Double, 13 and 10. There's not a lot you can say. He wasn't getting a lot of help. Race Thompson is going to have to help alleviate some of the congestion for Trace Jackson Davis. And this team as well by hitting some damn shots. If you're not hitting any shots, there's no reason for him to. But Malik Renew also can do the same. He's a threat he can shoot the ball a little bit outside, but he's really tough on the inside. I expect to see him play a lot better tonight. I think Malik Renew is going to continue to get better quicker as the season progresses, especially once you get into Big Ten play. He's going to be playing against much more elite talent, game in, game out. There are no off nights. He's going to be playing against bad dudes from now on. And every game is a learning opportunity, and I think he is going to do just that. One more quote or a clip from Mike Woody, funny one, just talking about these guys, the toughness of this team, because it was questioned against Rutgers. And here's what he had to say.
It's guys that ain't magical. It ain't. I don't know if you guys have ever played sports. You just gotta work and display it on the floor. Display it like we did in the Carolina game. If you look at that game and you say, well, who was the toughest in that game? You're going to say Indiana was the toughest team. They got 50-50 balls. They defended the shit out of Carolina. It wasn't that way against Rutgers. They were the toughest team. So, we've been pretty good in that area. Well, we got out toughed against Rutgers. So we got to figure out how to not let that happen again going forward. That's the key. There's nothing magical in practice that you can, I can roll the ball out and say loose ball drills like Coach Knight used to do and make you get on the floor and knock the shit out of somebody, and get in the loose ball. I can do all those things, but that don't mean shit to me. You got to do it in the damn game when it counts. That's when it counts, not in practice, knocking the shit out of each other, which we do. We beat up each other for almost 4 months before we actually got an opponent. Well, we've had some pretty good games going forward, but it wasn't too good for us in Rutgers. And I don't like the fact that we got out tough. That just take guts and hearts to go out and rebound and get 50-50 balls, things of that nature. So that's something that we got to display in the game and not just in practice.
Woody TV, baby, at its best. Absolutely. The question came from a young reporter who asked if there was a drill or something that they could do to work on their toughness, which I kind of chuckled out. And no. Yes, you can, but you either have it or you don't, man. At this stage, at this level, no. You didn't go through high school not being a tough guy and all of a sudden you get tough in college. You either have toughness or you do not have toughness. I'm not saying you can't learn to develop that younger, but not at this level. If you don't have it, I don't think you have it. Or if it hasn't shown, I don't think you have it. Because there has to have been multiple times for that to have presented itself. And you've either been tough or you haven't. And I just don't understand how you can get out toughed like that for the entire game. I'm not talking about the entire game. There's a couple of players specifically, but I'm like, where was their head? What are they thinking? What is it that they think their role is on this team? Because they're not doing that right now. But that's just my opinion. Indiana game tonight at 8:30 on the Big Ten Network. Like I said, don't forget about the post-game show afterwards with Todd Leary. Make sure if you haven't, go ahead now and subscribe here on the YouTube channel if you're listening via YouTube.
That reminds me, we are trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by Friday. So if you are listening to this show or watching this show right now and you are not subscribed to us, do us a favor, like Jim said, get us to 3,000, help us get to 3K by Friday, and maybe we'll do something. We never really have a plan in place for it, but maybe we should have a plan in place for when we hit 3K.
Oh, it's free.
Celebrate.
Man. Well, we haven't celebrated anything, man. I'm waiting to the 1,500th show, I think, to celebrate, because I missed the 500th, I missed the 1,000th. We were just working so hard. We're hurtling towards 1,500 shows.
Well, just show us. Honestly, it just shows how dedicated you guys are as a listener base, fan base, viewership base, whatever you want to call it. If you can help us push over that 3,000 mark by this Friday. I told Jim, I said, we're going to hit it by next Friday. And he didn't doubt me, but he didn't initially say that until I mentioned something.
Well, yeah. Well, hopefully so. I love our peeps, man. They're the best. They are the best. 42 states, 22 countries on 5 continents. You guys are something. But yeah, that's awesome. But tonight, Indiana taking on the Cornhuskers. Fred Hoiberg. He's in his 4th season. I think when I was talking to our friend yesterday from inside Nebraska, Steve Merritt, that we thought it was his 5th season, and I'm still thinking that it's his 5th season. Maybe not.
You could just be thinking about he's not too far removed from being the head coach at Iowa State.
That's probably his 4th season. Who knows? I don't care. But I would think
1 minute.
The fact that the clock is starting to tick for him, so that's another reason to expect a good game. But looking forward to it. Don't forget tonight the post-game show with Todd Leary afterwards. So subscribe. Make sure you're ready to get for that. It costs nothing. Let's see. Tomorrow we're back again also on the program. We'll have the normal cast of characters. Looking forward to that. And then game time tonight there. And then it's off to Las Vegas this weekend. There's so much coming up. Kansas next week. Oh my gosh, man, I can't thank everybody enough. Big thanks. Hope Bob Kravitz is getting feels better, by the way, and Rick not working too hard. Big thanks to Cal Neddenriep, of course, and Alec Lasley for jumping on with us. Dustin Schutte, of course, as always, and John, the producer. Big thanks to you guys. Without you, no reason for us to be here at all. Cannot thanks. Oh, don't forget about the UP. Cannot thank you guys enough. We're back tomorrow to do it again, or tonight, really. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.